Dave, has there been any update at this point on Brennan Armstrong? I know he was seemed to be hurt after the last play of the game, and we were told he was getting treatment afterwards. But just any status on him at this point?
Yeah, he's doing good. He was sore. I mean, he ran for over 100 yards, but he took every snap in the game. He was just sore and wanted to get him the treatment that he needed. But he's good. And like anybody that plays physical football, you're going to feel it sometimes after a game. We just wanted to make sure we did all the right things for him.
James? And as a follow-up to that, can I ask a follow-up? Sorry.
Go ahead, Corey.
What is his physicality and his running style meant to this team over these last several weeks as well?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can put it in words. I think you want to play for a guy like that, man. He's got heart. He's tough. He creates plays when they're not there, and then the plays that we ask him to run, he runs them in a physical way. I think it definitely gets the guys blocking for him excited. They know that he's going to be straining really hard. It inspires them to do the same. And it sets just a standard of play, like how hard you should be playing this game. And he's having fun out there, man. And that's the thing that, I think is also contagious, is just how much he's enjoying playing the game.
James?
Yeah, Dave, you've talked about Coach Anai's ability to kind of call plays on top of plays before in the past. Just when you watch back this matchup against Virginia Tech, did you feel like that was really on display in this game?
Yeah, Coach does a really nice job, not only in game, but looking at what he's called through the season and knowing how he might have set some things up off of some of the tendencies he has, and then in game seeing how they react on a certain play and knowing that, hey, this play is now set up. He's been doing it a while. He's got a good feel for it. And there's a Rolodex, like I've talked about, a deep Rolodex of plays that he'll just bring some plays out. And, a lot of them are very unique. And so it's pretty amazing to me how quickly he can get the guys to go out there and function as fast as they do with some of the stuff that, if you're on defense, you're like, I haven't seen that before, and with some of the shifts and motions, and I don't know what you call it, but it's definitely Roberts spinning the dial. That's what he does. And I thought he really called a good game at Virginia Tech.
Thanks.
Michael?
Coach Mike Waddell from the North Carolina Sports Network. Could you speak to the culture of your program as you built it over this last decade and how that resonates with the results that you're experiencing on the field, especially in the late part of the season?
Yeah, I think, persistence, perseverance, resiliency, grit, all those characteristics early on were really, really deep and thick in this thing. And the guys that helped me build it early on, they hung in there through some tough things and grew up in those early recruiting classes. A lot of the guys now you're enjoying watching playing the NFL. They were a part of, their blood is in the bricks here, as you say, but helping me build it. And D'Antonio Burnett's been here the whole time. And I think that's just that hard, tough together identity that we embrace here. That's when you lean in, is when there's adversity. That's where you have to really look at who you are. And if you have something that you're really true to, and for us, it's perseverance. It's adversity, understanding, it's part of life, and looking forward to an opportunity to overcome, and knowing that failure is not permanent unless you make it that way. I embrace challenges, and I think that's one style of leadership that some people have. I embrace that. When I have something that somebody says is going to be hard, it kind of makes me want to do it more. And so I think everything starts with me, and if I'm going to showcase that kind of leadership, then my assistants are going to do the same, and my players are going to feed off of that. And when you do that for 11 years, I think it just ruminates, and so one thing that I haven't done is change that part of who I am. There's other parts that have definitely evolved in me as a coach. I've learned a lot along the way, but I have not changed that. I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to look at adversity as an opportunity.
Noah?
You mentioned Brennan just being like the ultimate teammate and going through what he did over the last month. How did you kind of see that rub off on other guys in the offense? Seemed like, Dakari Collins and Bradley Rosner haven't played much recently, but at Virginia Tech, they both, had pretty big impacts.
Yeah, well, I think he showcased what leadership looks like. I asked the players from time to time, are you being the teammate that you want your teammates to be? And I think there's no question that Brennan does that. And he did that in a very difficult time. And people saw that, and how he spoke up to the offense for them to play hard. For MJ, when he became the starter, said a lot about who he was character-wise, and then how he just kept practicing and serving guys on the team. And then when he got opportunities to go in the game and how he performed, how hard he ran, I think it really showcased who he is as a human being. And there's a lot of respect in that from our team and our staff. As far as Dakari and Bradley, there's been several receivers that have worked their way up. Anthony Smith's another one. That at the beginning of the year, they weren't getting a lot of time and they've just kept working, and sure, they want to play more and this and that, but they also understand if they do the right things over and over and over that they're going to be rewarded, and they were. And then when they went in, they made plays. Dakari started last game. He'll start again this week, and we're excited. He's just got to stay one day at a time, in the process of getting better. And I told him the other day, I'm proud of him. He needs to stay in that one day at a time place. And it's going to be fun, to get out there and compete with these guys this week. And hopefully there'll be more of that. Just, guys continuing to fight.
Ethan.
And coach, when you have transfers like Bradley and Dakari, or, freshmen like Casey contributing, and this is their first time playing against UNC, what do you do or say to just emphasize how important this game is to this program?
Yeah, I don't think I need to say a lot. I set the stage Sunday in the team meeting. Do a little history lesson. You talk about your opponent and kind of lay out what it's going to look like for the week. And so they know. And Casey knew before he came here, I think. But they definitely know. And the stage is set. Now it's just go out and do what you do. Like the reason we won 4 in a row is because we've embraced the process of practicing and preparing. And we need to do that again. Doesn't matter if we're playing our rival or not playing our rival. You're not going to win any games if you don't prepare and practice the right way. And so this game has a lot of ulterior things with senior day, rivalry week, rankings, bowl placements, everything. But I just want to beat UNC, and that's what they want to do. And how do you do that? You have a great Tuesday practice. And then you have a great Wednesday and a great Thursday. And that's the recipe for winning for us. And so we're going to try to stay engaged in that.
Andrea.
Dave, I know you've had some really talented and good teams at NC State, but given where you were headed into the open date, do you feel like this is the best coaching job that you've done?
Well, I think I'd have to let you guys tell me that. I think there's been years where we've probably got more out of our talent than other years, for sure. But I do think the response that we've had since the bye week has been elite, for sure. But, you guys get a vote on who these coaches of the year are at the end of the year. And for me, it's just show up and do the best that I can. And if I'm rewarded for it, then that's great. And if I'm not, I'm going to keep doing my job. And I just am super proud of how the guys responded after Duke, and hope we can finish it.
JC.
You mentioned Coach Thunder earlier. Do you kind of look at it as a 3-part process with a high school recruit that you recruit them, then they do the strength and conditioning program, and then they get coached up? And that recruit should be very smart about how much it can change from when they're 18 to when they're 22.
Yeah, I mean, I think the developmental piece is one of the strengths of our football program. Thunder has a deep part of that. And the evaluation piece on what we look for and body types, what we look for in length, speed, athleticism, and then their intrinsic makeup. And there's measurables that go into that, and work ethic and live evaluations, lots of time spent getting to know young people and who they come from. And then, man, just doing all the right things, you know, the training with coach and how he does things down there and how he explains things. Our nutrition staff, Natalie Foston, does such a great job. Justin Smith, our sports med, and his staff do such a great job. So like there's all these different people. And then you have Coach Ruffin and myself and Freddie Autry-Lindsay, you know, teaching the culture of our program from the young guys up to the top. So we're trying to grow them in every way, you know, and I think all of those things matter in their maturation. And 18 to 22 is the greatest growth cycle they're going to have. So we're trying to max out that window, you know, trying to max it out, and we can't do it without them. They have to be a part of the recipe. You know, the guy that comes in here and does everything you ask him to do, the Thayer Thomas, the Drake Thomas, those kind of guys, you see them go fast as far as how they can perform. And then there's other guys that take their time in figuring out how hard it's going to be, and they're a little bit later to come on the scene sometimes. So, you know, it's interesting. Each kid that you bring in, you don't know like which freshman's going to impact the team the most, who's going to have the biggest, you know, change. Like James Smith Williams, 195 to 270 and running a 4.5 at the combine. Like, wow, what a change, you know, and starting in the NFL. I couldn't have predicted that. Not that he wouldn't think that he'd be an NFL player, but some of the body changes that Thunder has been a part of down there has been amazing.
Mike,
Coach, how much does this game against your rival North Carolina and North Carolina's rival NC State mean to your program in terms of recruiting, and how much is the game itself a punctuation mark to that process?
Well, you know, bragging rights are real. It's great when you win a rivalry game, you go out on the road and, you know, as a coach, you got your chest out and all those kind of things. I'm not necessarily sure it changes who we get all the time. I think these kids, that's a piece, but there's a million pieces in the decision. You know, there might be an exclamation point sometimes, but a lot of these guys come to campus multiple times, and there's a million parts of this equation that goes into why they pick us or them or whatever school they're picking. The rivalry is very meaningful to the fan base, to the alumni, to the coaches, current players, former players, all those things. And yeah, I mean, that's what makes rivalry week great in college football, man. All these teams, you're seeing them, and every rivalry I've been at, been a part of, it's the same way. It's just great pageantry, and it's one of my favorite weeks in college sports.
Noah,
You've talked, previously about the impact that Payton has on the defense in all sorts of, ways. Is there any player or anything that you've seen, anyone else be able to do it? Or is he kind of like, a unicorn in that sense of being able to be this impactful on a team's defense?
Are you talking about that we played against, or?
No, Payton, about him and how much, impact he has on this team. Yeah, it can be played against or just, at NC State or from your career in a whole.
Well, I mean, Payton's impact is felt. I mean, he was out there 47 plays, and I mean, he's in on almost every play somewhere, he's around the pile if he's not in the pile, and he's playing as hard as anybody. He's running guys down, and his impact is massive, and it's felt on the sideline, and not just when he's over there in the huddle with the defense. When the offense is out there, he's cheering them on. He'll run up to the special teams ready area and say things to guys in the huddle there about what, going down on a kickoff. So in the locker room, he's talking. In the team room, he's talking. So his impact is huge. And he's a commander, he's not just a leader. Like, he has that command presence in front of a team. When he speaks, they listen to him, and he's earned that. And so it's meaningful when he talks. I can't really speak for other teams because I don't get to see all the auxiliary things, that are going on. There's a lot of good players in our league that impact games. I would say there's not many in the country that impact what the game the way that number 11 is right now for us.
Jaden.
Yeah, Dave, does having players who were, highly recruited by Carolina and ended up coming to state, or, they flipped commitments or whatever, does that at all like make this rivalry game like more special at all?
I'm sure it does. It's fanfare. It's message board talk. It's all that kind of stuff. When you put the ball down, it doesn't matter. It's 11 guys against 11 guys trying to impose their will, and two coaching staffs trying to outcoach each other. And none of that stuff means anything, but leading up to the game, it's Monday, and yeah, it must matter if we're getting asked questions about it, but will it matter at the scoreboard? Probably not.
James?
Dave, you mentioned discussing the history of this rivalry with your team. Has there been any common themes you can look back to over the years that have stood out for the winning teams kind of more often than not?
That's a good question, man. There's been a lot of tight games, overtime games, last field goal kicks, crazy comebacks. You got to finish. I think that's the biggest theme. You got to finish. And it's not one of those games where you talk about playing 4 quarters. I mean, you talk about playing every second that they let you play the game, as long as it takes. And I know both teams are going to fight and fight hard. And that's why it's a fun game. I mean, this one's had a lot of crazy endings, crazy endings. So it's what makes them fun, man. I know both teams have talented players, good coaches, rabid fans, and it's going to be a great Saturday night.
Rob?
Yes, sir. With this season's matchup, there's some bowl leverage implications. The winner perhaps could get a more desirable bowl. Is that something you think about or discuss with your kids, or you just worry about the rivalry game itself?
No, it's something we talk about. I mean, you always talk about what you're playing for, and then you go back to how do you get it, and implications at the end of the year. Destinations are real. I mean, those are real carrots that you hang out there. And, I don't know what we're being chosen between. A lot of it's out of our hands, because you don't know if one of our teams is going to the playoffs or not, and how that can shift the bowl order in our league. So all you can do is control your own destiny by winning, and that puts you in the best place you can go. And so that's what we're going to try to do. At this point, with 8 wins or 9 wins, both teams are going to have a good opportunity bowl wise. But you give yourself maybe the best chance by winning this one.
All right, that looks like that's it for today.
All right, guys. Have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving.